4 belts, 3 champions and host of willing contenders jostling for position. The heavyweight division could be on the verge of a defining 12 months. Britain's Anthony Joshua, the WBA and IBF champion, remains the biggest name and biggest draw. He is on the verge of a unification clash with WBO king Joseph Parker, ahead of a potentially mammoth clash with WBC champion Deontay Wilder. All three hope to become the first man ever to hold all 4 major belts, but where do the other champions and challengers stand? Here Sportsmail details the state of play in the sports blue ribbon division. Anthony Joshua, the WBA and IBF heavyweight champion, is the biggest name in the division. Deontay Wilder, the WBC heavyweight champion, is unbeaten in 39 professional contests. Joseph Parker, the current holder of the WBO title, is on the verge of a fight with Joshua. Unbeaten former world champion, Britain's Tyson Fury, still holds the Ring Magazine title. Anthony Joshua, where are they now? Anthony Joshua is the IBF and WBA super champion, having won all of his 20 professional fights since turning over. The 28-year-old is comfortably the biggest draw in the division and fought Vladimir Klitschko and Carlos in front of a combined crowd of 168,000 in 2017. Widely considered to be the next pin-up boy for boxing, AJ is the kingmaker of the heavyweight division and the biggest payday for all of his rivals. Who do they want to fight? Ed Hearn said in the wake of AJ's victory over Takam that he would try and make mega fights with Wilder, Parker and Fury all in 2018, but AJ poured cold water on those plans, suggesting that, in reality, all 3 could not happen within 12 months. For now, Joshua is eyeing a clash with Parker. AJ last fought in October, when he stopped Carlos Takam in front of 78,000 fans in Cardiff. What happens next? Revealed by Sportsmail on Tuesday, AJ and the WBO champion are edging ever closer to a spring showdown. But the two camps are still to confirm a date and venue as well as other minor details. Joshua also has to keep the WBA and IBF happy by fulfilling his duty as champion and taking on mandatory challenges. Having beaten Takam, he shouldn't have to face an IBF challenger for another 6 months, while the WBA have instilled Alexander Povetkin as #1 contender following his victory over Christian Hammer. The British champion is on the verge of sealing a deal to fight WBO champion Parker. His path to the top. Among the current active heavyweights, only 2 men stand between AJ and the undisputed heavyweight crown, Parker and Wilder. But for as long as a Tyson Fury comeback remains on the cards, fans will demand a domestic dust-up between the pair. Having become the man who beat the man when he dethroned Klitschko, Fury remains the Ring Magazine and lineal heavyweight champion. Deontay Wilder, where are they now? The Alabama native is the holder of the coveted WBC belt and one of the most dangerous punchers on the planet. Wilder extended his unbeaten record with a 1-round demolition of Bermane Stiverne in Brooklyn last November, since which he, too, has set his sights on unifying the division. The 32-year-old has 38 knockouts in 39 wins. But he has so far failed to fully convince ring purists of his ability to capture the imagination of the wider American public. Wilder extended his perfect career record with a first-round stoppage of Bermane Stiverne. Who do they want to fight? In the immediate aftermath of his victory over Stiverne, there was only one man on Wilder's mind: Joshua. The Bronze Bomber declared war on AJ and demanded the British champion stop dodging him. But, for now, the American has had to turn his attention elsewhere. Wilder will fight Luis Ortiz in March, 4 months on from when they were first due to fight. The Cuban's failed test derailed that meeting, but Wilder has granted King Kong a second bite at the cherry. What happens next? A clash with Ortiz. They will collide on March 3rd at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Whoever emerges victorious will be at the front of the queue to face the winner of Joshua versus Parker. But there is no guarantee that will be Wilder. Despite his doping misdemeanors, Ortiz will likely prove the toughest opponent of the WBC king's career. The WBC champion is scheduled to meet Cuban Luis Ortiz at the Barclays Center on March 3rd, but if Wilder can come through that test, he will be on the verge of a huge stadium fight with Joshua next summer. His path to the top. Wilder knows he needs to fight Joshua to line his pockets and cement his legacy. The American, now 32, is running out of credible opponents and needs a win over AJ to prove he is as good as he keeps claiming to be. Otherwise the Bronze Bomber risks going down as one of the more underwhelming heavyweight champions of recent times. Joseph Parker. Where are they now? Joseph Parker holds the WBO heavyweight strap and could be in the UK by the end of this week to announce his fight with Joshua. The unbeaten 26-year-old picked up the belt with victory over Andy Ruiz Jr. in December 2016 and has made 2 successful defenses, most recently against Britain's Hughie Fury in September. Now, having reneged on his initial demands of a 40% stake in any clash with Joshua, the New Zealander is on the verge of the biggest fight and payday of his career. New Zealand's unbeaten WBO champion Parker could be in the UK by the end of this week. Where do they want to fight? As with most heavyweights in the world, AJ is the man in the sights of Parker. The WBO champion believes he can expose the Briton's glass jaw and secure the victory that would catapult him to superstardom. Should anything derail negotiations between him and Team AJ, however, Parker's team claimed to have had lucrative offers in China and Russia, potentially against Alexander Povetkin. An all-Australasian clash with Lucas Browne was also on the table, though he is now eyeing a fight with Britain's Dillian Whyte. What happens next? Hearn and Parker's promoter David Higgins are set for more talks this week as they look to thrash out the finer details of the proposed unification showdown. All being well, a deal should be finalized in the coming days, with the two set to collide in late March or April. Cardiff's Principality Stadium seems the most likely venue, but that has not yet been confirmed. Parker's promoter David Higgins flew to London this week to finalize a fight against Joshua. Should Parker upset Joshua, he will become the man to beat in the division, and a rematch would inevitably follow. If, as the bookmakers expect, he suffers his first defeat at the hands of AJ, a clash with Browne makes sense. His path to the top. For as long as Parker holds the WBO belt, the New Zealander will continue to hold significant sway in the division. Because, for as long as he holds the title, he will continue to have something Wilder and Joshua want. He is, for now, not the biggest name or the biggest draw. But with all three keen to unify the division and potentially become the first undisputed champion since Lennox Lewis, Parker still holds some balance of power. Tyson Fury. Where are they now? On the comeback trail, the former unified heavyweight champion has touted a possible return to the ring on a number of occasions. But he seems serious this time. Tyson Fury, who has not fought since dethroning Vladimir Klitschko more than 2 years ago, is back in the gym and back on the warpath, having recently reached an agreement with UK anti-doping over an alleged failed test dating back to February 2015. Fury is free to resume his career and is set to reapply for his boxing license on Wednesday. Tyson Fury poses alongside Ricky Hatton shortly after starting his training again in November. Who does he want to fight? Perhaps the more appropriate question would be, who doesn't Fury want to fight? In November he released a 10-man hit list for his proposed comeback. Joshua, Parker and Wilder were all included, as were some bizarre names such as Chris Arreola, Samuel Peter and Thomas Adamek. But it's clear that a clash with Joshua is at the top of his wish list. The self-styled Gypsy King has been calling out the WBA and IBF King relentlessly on social media and even challenged AJ to meet him in his first fight back this spring. What happens next? Until the BBBOFC lift the suspension on his license, very little. He continues to shed the pounds under the tutelage of new trainer Ben Davidson. But his hopes of a clash with one of the division's big boys remain a way off. Hearn, for one, has said a fight with Joshua is currently unmakeable, and will not happen unless it is sanctioned by the BBBOFC, but Fury announced on Wednesday that he hopes to defend his Ring Magazine title in April. And for all his talk, the former unified king will likely have a couple of tune-up fights before taking on one of the current champions. Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko in his last fight in November 2015 to become world champion. He failed to schedule a comeback clash before February. However, Fury is set to be stripped of his Ring Magazine title, his path to the top, given he is technically still the Ring Magazine and lineal heavyweight champion, having never lost his belts in the ring. Fury can expect a fast track back to the top of the sport. Parker's team have already said they would be willing to give him the chance to regain the WBO strap he vacated, while Hearn is keen for him to fight AJ after a fight or two to shed ring rust. Fury will be In line for a shot at the three current heavyweight kings, and what about the rest of them? David Haye. As has been the case for a depressing amount of time in his impressive career, Haye is recovering from injury. All being well, the London fighter will have the chance to secure revenge over Tony Bellew in the May 5th rematch. At 37, Haye clearly retains the desire to revive his ring career, but can his body keep up? He faces a defining 12 months and admits 2018 could be the final year of his career. Britain's David Haye and Tony Bellew are set to renew the heavyweight rivalry in May. Tony Bellew, bomber, was left heartbroken after Haye's injury robbed him of the chance to consolidate his unlikely victory in the first fight in March. He tried to secure Parker as a late replacement but now faces Haye in a rematch in May. Victory would put him right in the mix at the top of the division, but the Liverpool fighter has already admitted he would not challenge the likes of Joshua, believing they are simply too big for him. Dillian Whyte. He has risen to number 1 in the WBC rankings but failed in his bid to secure a fight with Wilder. The body snatcher also struggled to make a statement against Robert Helenius on the undercard of Joshua Takam in October. Provided Parker and Joshua agree terms, a fight with Lucas Browne looks his most likely move. Otherwise, Whyte will likely need to become mandatory challenger to earn a shot at the big boys. Alexander Povetkin. A fight attempting to rebuild his career and reputation after another failed test. The Russian returned to the ring with victory over Christian Hammer last month and is now back in sight of a title shot. He is now ranked as number 1 contender by the WBO and WBA and could face the winner of Joshua vs. Parker, should they agree terms. Ortiz, nicknamed King Kong, has been handed a second shot at the WBC title by Wilder. Luis Ortiz, another fighter who has fallen foul of anti-doping rules, but another fighter who nevertheless remains within touching distance of a world title. Ortiz was scheduled to fight Wilder in November, but the fight was scrapped after he tested positive for a banned substance from the second time. That misdemeanor saw him lose his mandatory status to Josh's WBA title. But following his win over Daniel Martz last month, he was handed a second shot at the WBC title by Wilder. Yarel Milik, the unbeaten American, is ranked in the top 10 by the WBA, WBO and IBF and has been trash-talking Joshua, labeling the British fighter a mental midget. His hopes of securing a fight with the WBA and IBF king were done no harm by his decision to sign with Hearn. But there remain several hurdles for him to overcome before he mixes it with the very best.